up,
That's
beautiful
okay.
dancers? It's your girl Crystal. It's your girl Crystal, bringing you a different form of what I typically give you guys for the inside scoop of everything inside of ballroom dancing. So today I'm here with the Amber Haider, and we're just gonna kind of talk about kind of like some inside things that kind of go on with the ballroom scene, just life outside of the ballroom scene, and how we got into it, what we think about it, and hopefully you guys can relate to it, talk back to us, and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I love it.
Miss Amber, Amber.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been dancing? And I know you can say like how long you've been specifically ballroom dancing.
Yeah, well, I've been ballroom dancing for 4 years and just kind of started that on a whim, actually. But I've always loved to dance, but I never did like formal dance training growing up. But I would go to every school dance, like never miss it. You know, like I used to make up dances in my room. You know, I used to like draw ballet shoes, but I never like pursued it for some reason. And then when I turned 40, I just had a whim and I was like, I kind of want to try that. I didn't watch, people always say, did you watch Dancing with the Stars? I'm like, no, I really didn't. I just seen like episode here, episode there, but it was just, I mean, I kind of think it was just like inspiration, right? Like,
wow, yeah.
It was just like, hey, you should go into that studio over there and see what they're doing. And I was like, okay. And then like, I was at that, it was like a franchise studio and I was there a few months and I just was like, so hungry. Like I was like, I can go so much faster than this. I'm like, I want technique. I want to compete. And they were just like, don't worry, it'll come, you know? And I was like, oh, like I'm in the wrong place. Like I'm a racehorse and I gotta go, you know?
So I know you said that you started with a franchise studio and it kind of limited your ability to progress as fast as you wanted to. I started with a franchise as well, and I noticed the exact same thing. Did you also notice that if you were to stick with that route, it would have cost a lot more money in order to get to where you are today? Like, actually, where are you today as far as your level and I guess skill wise?
Yeah. So I started newcomer, obviously bronze. I dance rhythm only. And right now I'm like, I danced bronze for 2 years and basically silver for 2 years. And where I'm at right now, they changed the silver syllabus. And so some of those moves became gold moves. And so rather than changing our choreography, he just moved me to gold. And we were kind of testing some gold and open at smaller competitions. And so now where I'm at is like, he's like, well, okay, we're doing gold now because that's what your figures are. But we're moving into open. And so now I'm starting to learn some open choreography. I thought that my franchise was expensive, and it was like in terms of like per lesson. But when I went to them multiple times and was like, I want more technique. I want to like deep dive on some of these dances, and they would kind of put me off. I was like, well, I just want more. Like I want to progress faster. And they said, well, you could always buy more lessons. And I thought, I'm not getting anything out of the lesson. Well, not anything, but like the lesson isn't giving me, there's not enough meat in the lesson. So I don't really buy more lessons. Right. But when I went to my private teacher, he was less, like not significantly less, but certainly less per lesson. But it was so good. And they were like so full of content and so full of technique that I was like, just take my money. Like, you know, because I was loving it so much and I was progressing so fast. And I was like, this is so interesting. Like,
I think the limiting factor from, you know, going from a franchise to an independent studio, I think that's the biggest thing, right? I'm willing to spend my money if you let me move as fast as I'm like able to. I'm not saying to just put me at the top where I can't, you know, I'm physically unable to keep up. But at the same time, if I'm able to do that and I'm willing to put the time and effort in that, let me move on. You know, I agree with you with that. But we're not going to go ahead and compare franchises and independent studios all day. But that is an interesting thing because I think I talked about that briefly in one of my episodes. And I was like, you know, how to save money and, you know, what are you looking for? Are you looking for that community? Are you looking to just like get the information and progress. It all kind of depends on what your overall goal is and how you want to save money. So,
Crystal, I don't know how you got into it. How did you get into it?
how did I get into this? I think it was similar to you, to be honest. I've always liked dancing, just like you. So, I just wanted to be a good dancer. I sucked at dancing. Like I couldn't dance at all. Everybody else in my family were good dancers, and I was
I
like,
don't
I
believe
can't
that
be a
for
good
one
dancer. Oh, I could not dance. Like I used to watch it was this old 90s cassette tape called The Grind. It was a hip hop dance video. And I would practice the steps over and over and over again until I got it. And I mean, lo and behold, my grandma was so sweet and she would just encourage me, oh, you're so good. But I sucked. Okay. So anywho, fast forward, I guess when I turned 30, I was like, you know what? I think there's a studio not too far. And I joined that studio. I kind of same thing as you. I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I finally financially I had the money to afford it because I knew it was gonna be expensive. I didn't know how expensive at the time, right? And I really liked that community. It was a franchise. And I think that if I would have stayed at that location, that environment and that community, I probably would have stayed there, even with the money, because of that. And I probably would have been, a little bit more behind than I am now, but I didn't know any better at the time. What keeps me in it is every time I go somewhere to a new competition and I don't see a lot of people that look like me. And then you start to see like that one or two person that they don't even have to be a dancer. They could be somebody who's working, for the event or, helping out at the hotel or something like that. And they just look at you and they're like, represent, they give you that acknowledgement of like, you're representing us, you're doing something good. And that kind of helps me and motivates me to keep sticking with it. So, yeah.
I love that. I'm so glad you're doing that. Like,
yeah,
because is that hard for you or was it hard for you to be in an environment like that where there's not a lot of people like you?
Starting out, I don't think it was, right. Like I've always gone to schools where, I was always the minority, right? But the more and more I got into it, you start to feel like, okay, man, I'm the only one. Like I'm being stared at all the time. So, and a little bit is probably a little bit of added pressure to myself. But like I can't mess up. I'm the only one out there. I have to do good all the time. So that added pressure doesn't really help me. But I don't know. I would say there's some times where I feel like I'm okay, and there's other times where I feel like, man, it kind of it hits a little bit to be the only one sometimes. But I'm starting to see and meet, not necessarily in person, online, that there are more, people out there that look like me, or and then it's nice to know. It's nice to know they're all at different levels and different locations. Might not all be at the same competition, but we're out there.
Yeah, good. I love it. Is that why your Instagram is Black to Ballroom?
It is because I want to encourage more people that look like me who come from different backgrounds. Because I want to say it's just Black women, but I am Black, so that's why I kind of like promote that.
Sure.
So to come in the ballroom, it doesn't matter your financial background, your demographic, whatever it is, like you can still do it. And just because it's not something that you're exposed to all the time or at an early age, it's still out there. And I think that was a key thing for me, is exposure, right? If I don't know, it's just like hockey, right? Like, oh, there's a Black hockey player. I wouldn't have known until somebody told me and showed me the picture. But if we don't have that exposure, then how do you know that it's something that's attainable to you or that type of group? So I think that's a little bit of it too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. I love it. I love your platform.
But what about you? So you got into motivational speaking is it for dancers specifically, or overall?
Well, I'm a life coach, and I've been a life coach for a while. And so I was coaching clients generally, just like mostly women, kind of all over the sun. And then I started dancing, and what had happened is I'd been dancing maybe like a year or so. And a lady in my studio had texted me, and she was this darling, like 73-year-old woman. And she was like, hey, I know that you're a coach. And she's like, I'm looking for somebody who might be a ballroom coach who can help me, because I've had so much anxiety that I'm like starting to pass out. And she said, it used to be just at a competition. She's like, I've never enjoyed a competition. It's always been very stressful. And I would get kind of dizzy and like even feel faint. And like, I've even passed out. And she's like, but now, and this was post COVID. And it was like, now, like even at my lessons, I'm feeling that level of stress and I have to stop and sit. And she's like, I need somebody to help me with what's going on. And I said, I definitely do not know any coaches that coach ballroom dancers like on their mindset, and I was like, but I know that I can help you. So I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. So I just was like, I'm going to charge you like next to nothing. And I'm just going to work with you. We're going to work together. I think it'll probably be like 8-10 sessions. We'll see. And it'll help me build something that maybe I could help other dancers with, but let's just see. It was just like, let's just see if it helps you. So kind of figured out what dancers deal with, why she was having that happen. And so she was like the pilot project. And the long story short is that we did get her back on the competition floor. She hadn't danced in like 2 years. And we got her on the floor and she like sent me the sweetest text. And it was just like, they didn't see me coming at the Seattle Star Ball. And like, she's like, for sure it was like challenging, but she was so happy. And like the one thing that she said to me that just like, it hit me in my heart was, she said, Amber, I've never enjoyed a competition ever. Like it's always been so stressful. And she's like, I had the best time. And so she's like, everything else, like aside, she's like, that's a gift that you gave me. And I just like,
wow,
wept. I mean, I just was like, oh, and that's kind of where that was born. And so then I was like, I wonder if there's something here, and
yeah.
So I kind of toyed with that, but of course, like there's not that many ballroom dancers in my town. So I got to find like other places.
Where are you? Where are you from actually?
So I'm in Oregon and I'm in Salem, which is an hour south of Portland. So West Coast.
Okay.
And it's not
just
like
a city full of ballroom dancers.
I mean, that's definitely not a ballroom center. There's like, it's not New York or LA or Atlanta or even like Phoenix has a huge ballroom scene. But anyway, so that's where it started. And I started doing some Facebook ads. I think it might be 2 years now, I started a podcast that's the Ballroom State of Mind. And I'm like 70 some episodes in now. And so that's finally generating a lot more clients for me. Like that's how they're finding me. They're searching for a podcast about ballroom mental strength or ballroom mindset or like performance anxiety. And so they're finding me that way. And it's so much fun. Like when I get on like a consult with the dancer, it's just like the best time.
Ballroom State of Mind, right? That's your website. That's your platform.
My website.
Perfect.
Yeah, my website's amberhaider.com, but the
podcast
is Ballroom State of Mind. Mm-hmm. Well, and the feedback on the podcast right now is like, people are just like, oh my gosh, it's so helpful. Like you're answering questions I didn't even know I had. So the podcast, like, even if you never work with me again, ever, like the podcast will help you. It's awesome.
Yes. And is that, I guess you can get that on which platform?
It's on my website too, but Apple for sure has it, and Spotify are the two biggest that people find it.
Okay, perfect.